guys? It is your boy, the American F1 fan, Eric Ringle here, and the Australian Grand Prix has just ended for this evening, this morning, wherever you guys are watching it, and it was an absolute masterclass as Charles Leclerc wins the Australian Grand Prix. I mean, absolutely walked away with this race from start to finish. So let's cover a little bit of the race and what happened all throughout. So lap one, Leclerc gets a fantastic start, but his Ferrari teammate Carlos Sainz spins it in the second sector, coming off of, I believe it was turn 9, I believe is where he spun it into the gravel trap, got stuck there, and brings out the first safety car on lap, I believe it was 1 or 2. And brings out the safety car, and it just, I think at that point you kind of realized, because you saw that Ferrari was already gaining a lead. They were already up almost 2 seconds on Verstappen, even after the first lap, and you could kind of see where this race was going after that very first lap. Then, as you got further and further into the race, you had Vettel spin out and absolutely wreck his car. Vettel has had an absolutely horrible weekend. Basically only had about an hour on the track all throughout practice. Was barely able to get out in qualifying with 2 minutes to go. Put in a decent qualifying lap for only having an hour worth of time on the track, but spins it in turn 4 into 5, slams into the wall, brings out another safety car. At this point, you had three racers that were on the hard tire, and they all decided not to pit, and this was a little bit questionable. You had Albon, who was on the hard tire, you had Alonso, who was on the hard tire, and then you also had Kevin Magnussen, who was on the hard tire. And they didn't pit here, and it was a little odd to me. When everybody else was on newer hards, you had a chance here to go on to the medium tire and to potentially, put yourself in a really good position if there was another safety car to come out or another virtual safety car. You kind of start to make the racers in front of you start to worry on whether or not they're going to be able to make it to the end, or you've got guys that are on the faster tire. I was a little bit questionable on the strategy from Albon, Alonso, and Magnussen, but Vettel ends up crashing, and that opens up another position throughout the race. But then, I think the biggest thing here is Verstappen had been trying to chase down Leclerc all race long, but just was not. I mean, was just losing time, hand over foot to Leclerc. At a certain point, he was up to almost a 10-second lead throughout this race. And then the inevitable, just, oh my God, heartbreaking for Verstappen happens. Something happens with and the engine just shuts down. And you see Verstappen pull to the side of the road. You can start to see a fire, maybe a hydraulic leak, maybe an oil leak to a certain extent, because you could start to see a fire come out of the back end of the vehicle. And it just, oh my God, it's so heartbreaking because Verstappen's now DNF'd in 2 out of the first 3 races in the Formula One season after such a great victory in Jeddah just 2 weeks ago. He then has another DNF here and puts himself in a really horrible position with, only into the 3rd race of the season. And I think this is where, you just knew at that point. When Verstappen ended up having to retire from the race, you just knew it just was over. Leclerc just, nobody could chase him down all throughout this race. And I think at times, and with all these changes that were talked about with the Australian Grand Prix and the track, and, they were going to make all these changes to promote just, more racing. You got it from about 10th on down. You saw it towards the end of the race. You were seeing a lot of fighting going there. And then I think once tires started to go, you started to see that fighting go away. But up at the front, you just didn't see that fight. You didn't see the fights that were expected out of this track. You really saw Ferrari dominance, and had Sainz not spun into the gravel trap early in the race, you have to start to wonder whether or not maybe Ferrari couldn't have pulled off another 1-2 here. Maybe Sainz could have worked himself back up into a podium position, or maybe into second place. And unfortunately, we'll never know. But Perez was able to bring it home in second place. And Leclerc now opens up a huge lead so far, just through 3 races. You're going to have Imola coming up next week. But, I mean, I'm starting to wonder, is this the sign that, the Ferrari fans have been looking for, in that Leclerc's their guy, and Leclerc is just running spotless races week in and week out, and I just have this feeling Leclerc is going to start pulling away with this if some of these teams that are below Red Bull and Mercedes and McLaren and all these other teams, if they don't start coming up with updates that are going to make their cars go faster, I'm starting to wonder if Leclerc and Ferrari are going to start to pull away from all of this. So let's run down through the standings. So we had Leclerc finish first. You had Perez finish second. Great job by Perez. Was able to just keep his head upon himself and just run his race. You saw right after Verstappen retired, he even radioed into his team, why did Max retire? Is it something that I'm going to have to worry about? Luckily, his team told him it wasn't something that he was going to have to worry about, and so he was able to run his race, finish second. You had George Russell finish third. You had Lewis Hamilton finish fourth. So this is a great result for the Mercedes team, who I think a lot of people were sitting there wondering whether or not Mercedes was going to, be able to, bring the fight back after the first couple races, especially with the way their car has been driving, with the massive porpoising issues. The updates that they were supposed to be bringing this week did not get brought, and so there were some questions on whether or not there was going to be any fix to what had happened, but sure enough, Mercedes was able to pull it out and get a 3-4, and this is George Russell's first podium, actual podium through a full race. Let's be honest, Spa last year just didn't count for George, so congratulations to George. You had Lando Norris finish fifth, you had Daniel Ricciardo finish sixth, Esteban Ocon seventh, Valtteri Bottas eighth, Gasly ninth, Albon. Oh my God, let's talk about Alexander Albon here for a second. So he ran 57 laps. 57. He literally ran almost the entire race on the hard tire, was able to literally pit on the very last lap, put a set of softs on, and he finished in 10th. He was running up in the 7th position when he had to pit on lap 57, was able to pit, come out in 10th position, and score a point for Williams F1 Racing. Then you had Guan Yu Zhou finish 11th. You had Lance Stroll finish 12th, but he's going to finish a little bit lower because he does have a 5-second penalty coming to him. He was found to be weaving on the straights. You're allowed one defensive maneuver. Lance did not do that. He took it upon himself to weave several times on the straights, and so finally the FIA penalized him. You had Mick Schumacher finish 13th, so he's going to move up. You had Magnussen finish 14th. He's going to move up because he was within that Stroll 5-second penalty. You had Yuki Tsunoda finish 15th, Latifi finish 16th, and Alonso finished 17th. And then you had your finishers for your non-finishers being Verstappen, Vettel, and Sainz. Like I said, Sainz, this kind of hurt him and the team really, because Sainz is expected to be chasing Leclerc and potentially be the 1B driver or the 1A driver to Leclerc, and that really hurt. And unfortunately, Aston Martin and Vettel just had a weekend to forget. I mean, it literally they cannot wait they cannot literally wait to get out of Australia after this weekend and everything that Aston Martin went through. They're ready to leave Australia. And Verstappen, I mean, Jesus, he is absolutely gutted, I think, at this point. He's got to be wondering, is the power unit that, now we're running that Honda used to do, now we're, in charge of it, is it going to be a reliable piece of machinery, throughout the season? Is it going to be something that's going to carry us to the championship? So, got to wait to see. We've got Imola coming up in, I believe, next week, if I remember correctly. I'm just shooting off the top of my head. So we're going to have Imola Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Imola. So guys, please stay tuned to the channels. We'll do another race preview coming up for that. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit more quieter, as it's literally 1:50 in the morning, Sunday morning, so I'm trying not to wake up my 3-year-old son and my family. So sorry if I'm not as jubilant as I normally am in my videos. But guys, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Slap a like on this video. Comment down in the comment section down below what your favorite moment of the Australian Grand Prix was. And guys, for Eric Ringle, I'm the American F1 fan, and I'm signing.
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots